Hey gang, Ronan here. Welcome on back to the Cade and another episode of WTF Wednesday. The series where we take a look at games that may at the time seem like a good idea, but in reality turned out to be anything but. And for this one, we're going to take a look at one of the strangest games that I have ever recalled coming across. It came out on the Super Nintendo and only the Super Nintendo in 1994, and it is based on one of the most popular American sitcoms of the decade. We're going to play Home Improvement Power Tool Pursuit. Now, if you are not familiar with the sitcom in which this is based, Home Improvement ran on ABC, so it was on at the time one of the big four networks, from 1991 to 1999. And it was one that was based entirely on the stand-up material of, at the time, stand-up comedian Tim Allen. Tim Allen, of course, going on to become much more famous in TV and movies. He was the voice of Buzz Lightyear in the Toy Story franchise. He was in one of my favorite sci-fi comedies of the last 25 years in Galaxy Quest. But everybody figured out who he was when this sitcom hit the air. Now, how this works is apparently this game is built on the idea that the show, Tim Allen's character, Tim Taylor, hosts a home improvement show with his sidekick Al, who is played by actor Richard Karn. And throughout the series, chaos and mayhem would ensue either on the set or at home with his family, where he had a wife and I think 3 kids. In this game, the company that sponsors his show, Tool Time, the fictional tool company called Binford, has a new line of ultra power tools that they're going to name after Tim, and somebody steals them. So now he's got to go and retrieve the tools and get past all sorts of enemies across 4 levels of 4 different stages. So there's 16 levels in total to beat the game. But here's where this came as an entry for a WTF Wednesday, is that this show, while being a sitcom that was meant to be aimed very much at families, what would compel a kid who was the predominant age of most gamers at the time in the 90s, when they went to a game shop to pick up something for their Super Nintendo, saw this on the rack and decided, I gotta have it. I don't know of any people who did. Now, this game is not badly rated. Electronic Gaming Monthly, when it was rated in 1994, gave it a 33 out of 50. EP Daily gave it a 7 out of 10. GamePro 14 out of 20. Nintendo Power gave it a 12.2 out of 20. They were being very pedantic about that rating. Video Games and Computer Entertainment, 25 out of 40. Electronic Games gave it a B, and Entertainment Weekly was the most damning review, gave it a C-, in which they said they were turned off by the concept of Tim Allen fighting enemies like dinosaurs and alien beasties. Well, they would only have to wait about a decade, and like I said, he was in a little movie called Galaxy Quest, which is a great flick. It is, again, I'm not damning with any faint praise, it's one of my favorite sci-fi movies of the last 25 years. Nintendo Power, in their reviews, said that claiming that despite its fun worlds and many different types of attacks, it suffers from awkward controls, of which I will demonstrate them presently, poor placement of objects that artificially increase the difficulty, absence of humor from the TV series, and the fact that the gameplay never rises above standard jumping, shooting, and the collection of items. So this first one we have to do is we're dropping into a studio set of where they're filming essentially a Jurassic Park clone. Now, we've got a couple of different weapons at our disposal here. The big thing you want to keep an eye on is that your A button allows you to jump. Your Y button fires off a grappling hook, or if you hold down, you run a jackhammer that allows you to bore through stuff. And then if you waste time, Tim will sit there and flex for you. So you need to be able to... I need to be able to get up there, except I can't because it's not letting me. So we hit the nail gun. Now these little doilies that are sitting here, or these little sprockets or whatever they are, They're like the rings in Sonic the Hedgehog. It's the best way I can equate it. There, take that one out. You also get a hammer that you can swing with, and that will allow you to bust out other stuff. Except they won't let me jump up there. That's weird. Ooh, those are spikes. Didn't want to do that. I do like that you can go backwards if you miss a step. So if you step off somewhere, although... Come on, Dragonfly, go away. There we go. Oh! Now, if you get hit while you have no sprockets on you, that's the end. It's life over. And you only have 3 lives per run through on this game. I don't know if you get continues on it. It didn't say anything about whether you do or not. And one of the crazy things about this game was it didn't come with an instruction manual. Basically, it said you get a splash page when you open up the manual, and it essentially tells you, well, real men don't need to know how the controls work. Which is very much along the line of Tim Allen's stand-up comedy shtick, which was real men like tools and real men do certain things a certain way, which is why a game like this and his stand-up has not aged well at all over the ensuing 30 years. Oh, and I died again. Now, in their review, GamePro said that this game is very much like Pitfall with power tools. They commented that the game plays well and is easy to pick up on. It's got solid graphics, which I would agree with. The graphics aren't terrible, but they are rather more pixelated than I like. But then again, I have to remind myself this is a 16-bit game. And now being 30 years old, we can't expect it all to be like PS5 games. Okay, so there must be something of interest down here. Oh! Ouch. Alright, so we got one crate. But that's as far as we got before we died. Let's see. I think I'm going to try and find the missing tools again. Gee, I don't know, Tim. So I think we do get to continue. Yeah, we do. Now, this game did make the list, according to PC Magazine and Rolling Stone, of one of the weirdest video games of all time. of which I'm inclined to agree. Because, again, if we're talking about a game that is based on a sitcom of a very specific decade, that is based entirely on the stand-up of one person, and that's not to say that Tim Allen was a bad comedian. I remember when his stand-up stuff came out in the early 90s, and his whole claim to fame as a stand-up comedian was he locked on to the whole idea of, like I said, of how men act in certain ways, and also lampooning the rather Neanderthal nature of men in general, especially when it came to things like tools. And the real big thing that got him on the map was he figured out a way to establish that men are at their best communicating by grunting. So if you are old enough to remember in the 90s, like everything that had to do with, like when he really got hot in the 90s, everybody and their ninth cousin was learning how to grunt like Tim Allen. So you'd be sitting there and you'd be having a conversation with somebody, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, that person would come out and, oh, that was Tim Allen. That was his whole shtick. There, finally got that dang thing. All right. Can I chop away at this stuff? No, I can't. And the jackhammer doesn't help me going through it. So it looks like what I gotta do... I gotta get something else that will let me... Aha! So long as I have the hard hat, I'm invincible. But I'm not anymore. Whoop. So I got 3 crates left. Now I can go through here, but I can't jump up. That doesn't make much sense to me. Alright, so I gotta be able to go this way, but I still have to get over to where that crate is. Okay. I have a jackhammer at my disposal, and yet I can't get down into any of this stuff. Now, that dinosaur was able to torch the ground. And I could get down there before. But he's not doing it now. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so come over this way. I've got, what, 400 seconds to go here, but yeah, there's no map or there's nothing to give you any indication of how to get through this level. Can't use the jackhammer going up. Can't do a double jump or anything. See, and this is where the frustration with this game comes in, is that how can you possibly be expected to understand how all this stuff is supposed to work? Whoa. Alright, can I get him up there? Nope, he doesn't want to go up that way. Now it's raining ants. Can't get anything over that way. And I can't get anything down that way. Huh. So that crate is still sitting in that alcove that I can't reach, and I have no idea how to get to it. And we're about 20 minutes in, and we are running out of time. So what the heck could the jackhammer be for if you can't go down anywhere? Already been this way. Well, the chainsaw was nice, but didn't have me tear through anything. Oh. Taken out again. And that there's no map or anything either. That's annoying. Whoop. And just like that, I have died. And it's game over. So, I mean, I could try and go through and get through this level again, but we're already at 22 minutes. But that's the game. I mean, I don't know how to get any further than this very first level because there's no real rhyme or reason to what you need to do other than going to find the crates. But then thinking about what you have available as far as items that you can use and when to use them and how to use them and what they're good on and what they're not good on. You would think a jackhammer would let you go through pretty much anything. But it doesn't. I mean, that's what a jackhammer is for. A jackhammer is for blasting your way through rock that you're standing on. And if that doesn't let you do that, you're really hamstrung for what your options are. So, is this a good game? No, not really. I mean, I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to capitalize very much on something that was in the moment and very popular in the zeitgeist of the 90s. Again, Home Improvement was one of the most popular TV shows of the decade. It won awards. It made Tim Allen a star. It made pretty much everybody who was involved in it, including the kids. If you've been watching the recent documentary, Was It Quiet on Set? I don't think they got mentioned in it, but, I mean, that speaks volumes about how bad kids have had it on TV sets forever. But I digress. At the same time, though, if you're trying to come up with something that's a novel idea that is completely detached from what the sitcom originally was, is it still going to be enough to convince people to go to a game store and spend $40 at the time on a copy of this game? I can't say they would. And in my research on it, I never did find out how well this game sold. And that's usually a sign to me that it didn't sell very well. Obviously, they were banking on the fact that it features Tim Allen and Richard Karn, who are the two faces you see on the TV screen above the set. Granted, in the 90s, you didn't have voice actors or things of that regard. It was mainly their name, image, and likeness based on their intellectual property that allowed them to put this stuff in the game. But they could have done something entirely different in terms of a concept, or even did something that didn't involve Home Improvement at all. When I say them, I mean Absolute Entertainment, which was the company that designed this game. They were around from 1986 to 1995, and they created games for the Atari 2600 all the way through to the Game Gear, the MegaDrive, the Sega CD, the Game Boy, the NES, and the Super NES, as well as the Commodore 64, Apple, and IBM PCs. So it didn't help much for the company in trying to put this game together, and that they went out of business the next year. If they were banking on this game to bail them out, they came up way short. Is this a game you could make today? No. One, because not enough people of current generations are familiar either with Tim Allen as a comedian or the character he created in Tim Taylor or Home Improvement as a show. Yes, it went into syndication, ran for 8 seasons and over 200 episodes, so it was in syndication for a long time, but I think its syndication life ran its course. I don't know any TV stations or any channels, I should say, in streaming or platforms that still run the show. So, since it's gone that far into history, if you're going to try and make a game like this now based on this, it would do even worse than it probably did at the time. Also, the fact that Tim Allen's humor and the humor of the show does not translate well 30 years later from what it was at the time. Again, not to say it was the dreaded phrase, a simpler time, but it was a time where you could make jokes that were in the ballpark of what sort of material Tim Allen used, and it wasn't necessarily stuff that was going to be it wouldn't be as received anywhere near as well today as it was back then. And I recently rewatched his 2 stand-up specials. You can find them on YouTube. They haven't aged well. They really haven't. Some of his stuff at a basic level is okay, but when he starts getting into more diverse ideas outside of his bread and butter of power tools, men grunting, and rewiring stuff to make it more powerful than it needs to be, then it wasn't anywhere near as interesting or funny. So, but that, everybody, is Home Improvement Power Tool Pursuit from 1994, and that is WTF Wednesday. If you managed to be probably among the few people who ever played this game, I'd love to hear your comments on it and your thoughts on it. If you went to a game store at any time and actually put down money on this game, I definitely want to hear from you. I want to know what justified it and what your reaction to it was when you brought it home and started playing it. I'd be really curious to know. I'm playing this on a free emulator, so I did not drop money on it, nor would I have at any point in my very, very long and illustrious gaming life. But if you've been enjoying the content on this channel, best way you can show it, hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, and ring the bell to be notified of new episodes. We post stuff every week, including our one-day features. I hope you watched it the other day where we played NOM 1975 for the SNK Neo-Geo. Fun game, challenging game, and like this one, a game that hasn't aged well in terms of content, but I think the challenge and what the package that presented was better represented than what was done here. It also bugs me that we got right to the end of it and inadvertently blew the world up because we didn't beat the final boss, but either way. We also have Sports Saturday and Suckerpunch Sunday coming up this weekend, where we play a classic sports game and a classic fighting or fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. We're on the cusp of making our final determinations for our next playthrough. I know I've been saying it a lot, but it's a decision-making process that requires many heads and a lot of planning. Again, ask anybody who does this sort of content on YouTube. It's not something you just pull out of the box and it's ready to go. It's more in depth, and we got to figure out how we can fit it into our schedule. So, as always, continue to watch this space. I'll keep you posted on when those are going to get started, and more importantly, what game we're going to be highlighting. Follow us on social media through Instagram and Threads at Ronan's Retrocade. Help spread the word about us as we continue to grow our subscriber base and make this channel bigger and better. And thank you to everybody, and I haven't said this for a while, but I do mean it every time. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed. We've seen the numbers go up. It's slow. I understand how this process works. It could take years. It could take a whole lot of work before we ever get to a point where we start seeing a whole lot of return on our investment of putting these videos together. And we're very fast approaching 300 videos on this channel. So we're going to keep doing it because we love playing video games. We love highlighting them in different ways. And as long as you're able to tune in and check them out and you like it, that's fine with us. To that end, if there's a game you would like to see us feature from the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo, the Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive, SNK, Neo-Geo, Nintendo 64, Sega Saturn, Sega Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, or PlayStation 2, leave it in the comments below or drop me a line on social media. It can be any game from those consoles that you want. My name is Ron. It's been great to spend this WTF Wednesday with you. Be safe, be well, happy gaming. We'll talk to you Saturday for another episode of Sports Saturday. Bye.